Hello, guys, and welcome back to Crazy About Kickoff. Today, we're going to discuss the Premier League and the Champions League games that are coming up this week. So, first, John, we'll start with Newcastle and their rising form. They've won 3 out of the last 3, which they're only the third team, I think, in the Premier League all season to do so outside of the top. Only the first outside the top 2, I think. So, what do you think's behind their upturning form?
I think there's a few things really. Like, obviously, you've got the spending they did in January. I think that's always going to help. I think they targeted maybe not all the players they necessarily wanted as first choices, but they got players in that they knew would help them stay up. I think Dan Burn, obviously, he clearly wasn't the first or second choice in terms of centre backs they wanted. They obviously wanted Sven Botman and Diego Carlos to be like their pairing after January, but they obviously couldn't get them, so they turned to a player who they could get reasonably cheap, Premier League experience, a good defender, knows how to defend, knows how to play football as well, and that seems that works out. And obviously a Newcastle fan, so that's all better. Kieran Trippier as well. I think there was a few people maybe wondering whether there was a bit of an overpayment, whether he was still as good as maybe he's been for maybe England or Spurs or Atletico when he first went. But obviously 2 free kicks in 2 games. I mean, both like match winners, both of them. So you've got to give him the 6 points they won because of that signing, which in their eyes is 20 million well spent, really. But I think, look, I said earlier that I don't think Newcastle would stay up. Where I said that pre-January. Post-January, I still wasn't hugely convinced. I thought maybe they'd still struggle, but partly because I didn't think that players they signed necessarily were all going to gel. Were they going to suit the way Eddie Howe wanted to play? Were they just not was the team just not confident enough? Like, the mentality was the mentality there, but they've proven me wrong, proven a lot of people wrong, and now they're looking like they're gonna stay way clear of the relegation zone, which gives a lot of other teams problems. But look, they've done really well. I think you were gonna say how you think the way Eddie Howe sort of picked the people he wants and also picked the people he doesn't want, which is really important as well.
Yeah, it's the way he's ruthless. He's called the players who he doesn't think fit the system or won't adapt quickly. Like the likes of your Joe Linton has adapted to that 8 role really fast. Sam Maximin looks even better now. He's more direct than ever. He's more involved than ever. But yeah, so he's called Kieran Clark and Jamal Lewis from the Premier League squad, and the likes of Almiron and Longstaff aren't getting a game anymore because they haven't adapted to his system. And I think his impact has been understated quite a lot. Like the system he's brought, I think I read before in November he had he organised a special training camp during the winter break, the international break, sorry, to get his tactics across, kind of thing, and get the lads used to his tactics and that. I think that's his tactics are the thing that's changed it really. Like Steve Bruce was known for not really having a tactical system, whereas Eddie Howe's come in, he's implemented it quite quickly and it's paying off. He took a couple of scalps already, and he might take some more as the season goes on. We'll move on to another side who might get dragged back into the relegation mire. Brentford. Now, Michael Richards, love more hate him. He's come out and said that he thinks they're overrated. What do you make of that, John?
I think I can see, I guess, where maybe he's coming from, because I think when a team comes up from the Championship and they're not just playing sort of defensive low blocks and they're actually trying to do something different, I think it is quite easy to jump on the bandwagon and praise them and maybe overpraise the teams that do that. And look, Brentford have been good. They've given a lot of good teams a lot of tough battles. They obviously took 2 points off Liverpool earlier in the season. They gave us a really, really hard game when we went there in the league and the cup. Edouard Mendy pretty much won us the 3 points in the league game then. But look, they are a good side, and you have to remember, they have a structure in that club and a way the club is run that isn't necessarily going to mean that they fully spend all this Premier League money. They've adapted this sort of Moneyball-esque type system where Like, you sign players, you develop them, you let them shine, and then you sell them on. Ben Rama, Ollie Watkins are both perfect examples of that. And so it's not a case of like where Villa came up and spent 100 million to just narrowly scrape through, or Norwich, who sort of, you can never really tell what their plan is when the season comes, whether they're just going to take the money and drop back down. They have a plan in place where they sign the players they think really statistically they need to stay up. And so if they stay up, it'll be because of their planning and the way the club's run and the trust they have in the manager and the players they've signed. So they're not overrated, I wouldn't say at all. I think I don't think maybe they're necessarily underrated either. I think they're just sort of doing something. They just attack the Premier League a different way to a lot of other teams,
Yeah.
and I think that means that when you're not used to seeing stuff, people don't really know whether to be really excited and praise it or just say it's just luck. But we'll have to see how it goes. I think Sheffield United, when they came up, it's similar in terms of the way that the neutrals saw it. It was like a team that really doesn't look like it has the personnel to stay up, but then they start climbing into the top half earlier in the season, drop down a bit, sort of end up in the sort of mid-table spots where they're never really in danger of going down, but obviously don't do anything else, which is a good first season for any team in the Premier League. But we just have to see how it goes. But I think if you think that Brentford are getting lucky or just like riding the luck, I think it's a big mistake because they know what they're doing. They're a smart club. It's run well. So I think if they can stay up this year, then I think they'll have a plan next season, whether it means their next plan is in the Championship or the Premier League, wherever they finish, whatever happens with the players they've got, they'll have a plan in place for every scenario. And they'll know that they'll have identified replacements for players now that may not even leave in the summer, but they'll have it ready because they know exactly what they want out of players. So, no, it's a lot of credit to Brentford. But yeah, I think Mickey Richards saying they're overrated was a bit of a, I don't know, I think it was a bit of a throwaway comment, really. I don't really think there's no really statistics to back that up, I wouldn't say either.
No, I think it is quite unfair, to be fair. The 14th in the league, they haven't changed the way they play, like you said, which most sides do. They sort of adopt a more defensive approach. Brentford have just sort of went for it, and as you said, they've had some good results against some very good sides. They were even unlucky against the likes of Man City, where they got beat 1-0 at home and they lost 2-0 the other week away. They've got the 10th highest XG in the league, so they're clearly quite good at attacking, and they've only got the 13th best expected goals against, which is actually better than Man United. So
well, there you go.
Clearly good. Yet they have lost 4 of the last 5, but they were arguably overperforming anyway for a side who've been recently promoted. But yeah, I think Brentford, as you said, deserve credit rather than criticism at this stage. We'll see at the end of the season if they stay up or not. I think they absolutely do. I predict they start the season, and I'm not changing that right now. I think Brentford and Newcastle both stay up right now.
Yeah, I think the only way that they even become a danger of going down is if you see like your Newcastles or like Everton under Lampard, if they start picking up results and they start getting clear, maybe that means they drop down another couple of places and they start being around the 16th mark, and then people start asking questions about it. But like you said, like their XG, that's what they'll be looking at, the statistics behind the performances, not necessarily like just what you're seeing on the pitch. Because if the statistics say that they were the 10th best attacking and the 13th best defensively, they'll be happy with that because statistically they'll stay up. And that's how it's run. It's run through statistics. It's like when they came third in the Championship, not last season, the season before, and lost the playoff final. There was they did an interview with the director of football, and he said, "Look, we were the best team going forward, and we had the second best defense statistically. That's why we didn't change anything for the next season because we knew that we statistically deserve to go up. So if we do the same thing, then we'll be fine next season." And they proved it, and they went one step further, obviously, and got into the Premier League. So I'm not worried about Brentford going down at all. I think they'll be fine. So, yeah, overrated, absolutely not for me.
Yeah, no, not for me either. And we'll move on to we've talked about rubbish pundit opinions. Another one is Danny Murphy's Match of the Day 2 comments about Liverpool's high line. Now, this annoys me. it really grinds my gears how people misinterpret Liverpool's high line into thinking that it's them giving away chances, which is what they done on match day 2. They just showed all these Burnley chances that weren't actually chances because they're offside. Now, Liverpool, with this high line, have caught the most players offside with 101. The next best, by the way, is Man City with 61. So it's a ridiculous amount more. It works, ultimately. It works. The media need to stop making these false narratives that it doesn't work, because players getting caught out offside, they're not having these chances. It's because the late flag and the VAR thing that it looks like they're having these chances, and then they'll go, oh, the flag's up, and it's like, oh, well, there you go.
Yeah.
But then they still show them chances that are offside in the highlights.
Yeah.
It's like, well, it's not really highlights, it's offside.
I think, look, you can. I know that when teams maybe when good teams appear to have something that's maybe seen as a weakness, I think people are quite quick to jump on it, because obviously it's hard to criticize teams that play really well, because you can't criticize them because they're playing well. But like the proof's been in the pudding about this for pretty much ever since Jurgen Klopp came in. He plays a high line because he wants to squeeze the opposition. He wants to narrow the space between the lines. He wants to press. He wants to win the ball higher up. It's how he's been playing for years. And in that time, Europa League final, 2 Champions League finals, 2 runners up twice in the Premier League, 1 Premier League title, like a Carabao Cup final now, cruising through 6 games out of 6 this season in the Champions League, 3rd best defence this season on goals conceded, only 1 more than Chelsea, who obviously play, and like a few, I think 3 less than City or whatever it is, 5 less than City. But like, how can you say that this defensive line is a problem? Like, granted, I think there was a time when Van Dijk and Matip and those sort of players were injured, and you were having to play sort of either like Reece Williams, Phillips, Kabak, Hendo, that sort of mixture of players there, where maybe the high line did cause a problem,
Yeah,
because you don't have your 2 best defenders.
People were calling for it to get scrapped last season, obviously.
Exactly, and that's fair enough. And look, I don't really think you can criticise Klopp for not changing the way he plays, because he's still got Champions League football despite being decimated with injuries. So, like, well, I don't know why the criticisms come, because there's nothing to criticise, because it works. If it didn't work, then you'd concede more goals, and you'd see that on the pitch by actually goals getting put in against you. It's not like every game Liverpool just like running the luck and players just can't finish against Liverpool, or Alisson keeps saving like 3 1-on-1s a game. Like, it isn't happening. So I don't really know where this. I know what you mean with the late VAR on the offsides, where it means that you can clip up highlights. You can make it look like this high line keeps getting caught out. And that's what. And when you look at the highlights, maybe of like the Burnley game, for example, there was a lot of times where Burnley just tried to hit that one ball over, and Verhorst maybe got in, or Cornet got a bit in. But a couple of them, they were offside anyway. I think there was probably only 1 or maybe 2 of them were actually real chances. And even then, like, Van Dijk was on the cover, Alisson like was doing his thing. Like, there's no criticism to throw at Liverpool, because there's nothing to criticise because of the way they're playing. Like, it just seems like just nitpicking at stuff to try and like make some controversy and get some views.
It probably is just to get some views, let's be honest. We'll move on. You mentioned the trophies Jurgen Klopp has won at Liverpool. One he has won is the Club World Cup, and I'm sure you'll be delighted that I'm going to say this now. One that Thomas Tuchel has also added to his Chelsea repertoire, shall we say. The Club World Cup. Now, I've seen a lot of criticism of this trophy over the last week, and it was the same when Liverpool won it. It's a Mickey Mouse Cup. It's basically a glorified friendly, but I think me and you agree on this one. It deserves more respect.
Yeah, I mean, it's not. I think people criticise it because of the teams you play when you're there. Obviously, we played Al Hilal, who were sort of the champions of Asia. I think they won the CAF or whatever it's called, and we played Palmeiras, who won the Copa Libertadores, who they won it back to back as well. So they'd won it in two seasons in a row. But it's not really about those games. Well, one, it kind of is, because we've been in it before and we haven't won it. Liverpool win it before and they didn't win it, and they were both to Brazilian sides. And there's a few reasons why I feel like this sort of slandering of the isn't really fair. Is because, one, think about how you get there, how you qualify for it. You have to win the Champions League, which is the biggest like club trophy really in the world. Like it's the most difficult to win, it's the hardest to win. And you can say what you want about Chelsea, Chelsea fans saying we're the best team in the world, when you're third in the league and you're 16 points behind City. It's like, well, yeah, but we also beat City to get there. We also beat the champions of Spain. We beat Porto. We beat Sevilla. We beat some top European sides to get there, and we beat Man City as well. So, and it's not even an easy competition to win when you're there.
No,
We struggled in both games.
And also, it's like the level of competition is quite clear. The fact that I think an English team's only won it 3 times, despite being in it a load of times.
There you go.
Like
that's it.
It was our first win, and there's a game. I think it was I want to say 1981, one of the best Liverpool sides of all times. You know what I mean? And like Dalglish, Souness, and all them, Hansen, all the greats. And they got beat by, I think it was Flamengo, and their fans still sing about it to this day. That shows how like revered it is in like the other like continents.
Yeah, you could tell by the stadium, like you could see how much it meant to like the Brazilian, like the Palmeiras fans, the Palmeiras players, because one, you get to compete with the best teams in Europe for an actual trophy, which they don't get to do a lot. And two, it means something because they take it seriously, because they know that to get there, their team has to win the Copa Libertadores, which is the biggest trophy in South America. And then to win that, they then have to be probably either the champions of Africa or Asia or another continent, and then probably have to beat the champions of Europe, when it deserves a lot of respect. And look, I don't think it's necessarily, I think maybe where it is in the league as well, where teams have to jet off to somewhere. It's done in, I think it was in Japan when we were in it in 2012. It was in the UAE this time.
It's hard when we win.
I think it does.
Obviously, the thing with the Carabao Cup, where we have to play with our kids in the Carabao Cup the night before, because we took that Club World Cup. Seriously, I think that was also a thing that's used against it. And I was like, I think you were going to say, if it got put to like the end of the season, say, or before the season, it'd probably take a bit more shine.
Because it just looks like something that disrupts like the traditional running of the club
competitions. Like the AFCON disrespect in a way. If it wasn't
exactly
mid-season, I don't think there'd have been half as fuss around it. We'll move on now though to big midweek games. We've got the Champions League returns.
Yeah.
On the week of Valentine's Day. It's always been the case, and obviously all them memes and that about it. But I'm excited. I'm missing the game tonight. I'm in work, but I'll record it and watch the Mbappe and Messi and that versus Benzema and Vinicius show. And it should be a very good game though.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think out of all the round of 16 ties, this is the meatiest. You're looking at Messi playing against Real Madrid again. Obviously, loves a goal against Real Madrid. He's got a great record he had in the El Clasico games. You've got Mbappe against a club he may be moving to in the summer. You've got Neymar there still maybe trying to prove that he's one of the greats. You've got Vinicius Junior maybe proving that he's ready to take Neymar's place as the next Brazilian wonder kid. You've got Benzema trying to almost carry Real Madrid again in the competition. Like you've got Ancelotti on one side, Pochettino. Like there's so many narratives in the game. Like PSG need to win this Champions League. Like it's similar to Man City. It's the cup they can't get their hands on. Real Madrid serial winners of it. Like it's almost like new dog versus old dog in terms of like dominance in Europe, and it should be an absolute cracker of a game. Hopefully, sometimes these games turn into cagey, boring affairs. But with the talent on display,
I don't think that's possible.
I can't see how. No. I just can't see how.
What's one? If you had to give a prediction for the score, then for tonight's game,
who's at home?
I'll double check. I'm pretty sure it's PSG, but I'll check for you now.
Yeah, it is. It's PSG at home. Yeah. I think it will be 3-1 PSG.
3-1. I was going to go 2-1 I'm gonna stick with me 2-1. I think 2-1
I know.
PSG.
I thought I'd stick my neck out a bit just because
Yeah,
maybe a goal each for the front three, and then a Vinicius Junior
yeah,
goal or something like that could be pretty
yeah.
good. But
I could see that. But I'm gonna go 2-1. I think it'd be a bit more close, and I think Madrid's defence are a bit better maybe than he was last year. So
yeah,
I'm gonna go
true.
2-1 for the home leg. We'll move on now. So that we mentioned another team who need to win the Champions League, Man City. They're away to Sporting. But I'm thinking easy 2-0 win. All right, Grealish is out, but they've still got an abundance of talent. And while Sporting have got some good players like Goncalves, I can't even think off the top of my head now who else. But
They've got Paulinho up
Paulinho,
front. They've got Paulinho in CDM, Sebastian Quartes.
but
Yeah,
City should breeze. I'm going to go 2-0 City, I think.
yeah, I think City should be fine. Obviously, it'd be funny if they weren't fine going into the second leg, but yeah, I think maybe 2-1, and then I think City probably finish it off in the
Yeah,
home leg. But hopefully Sporting can give them a game. Like they're not mugs defensively. They've been pretty solid over the last 2 years. They've still got a lot of the talent that won them the league last year.
yeah,
So hopefully they can make a decent game out of it. But yeah, you're right. City,
yeah, should
even
be.
without Grealish, they've got enough talent to sort them out really, or they should do. But unless Pep overthinks it again,
Let's hope, let's pray.
yeah.
We've got Salzburg and Bayern on Wednesday, and now I can't see nothing but Robert Lewandowski masterclass here. I think 3-1, maybe 4-1, even though it is
Yeah,
in Austria, but I can still see a big win for Bayern Munich myself. Although they
yeah,
did lose, all right, they lost 4-2 to Bochum on the weekend, and they have got no Neuer and no Alphonso Davies. He's got myocarditis, so I don't know when he's back. But I still think they should have enough for Salzburg to take them through.
yeah. This is like the City Sporting situation, really. Like, look, I really like Red Bull Salzburg. Obviously, they've had some cracking players, and I like the way that sort of, as much as it's like a bit of disdain in certain countries, I do like the way the Red Bull group does their thing. I think it's all very clever,
No,
and
it's clever. The scouting network's
yeah,
brilliant.
it's unbelievable. But yeah, I think it's similar. I think you'd expect Bayern to sort of have it wrapped up by the time it goes back to the Allianz. But yeah, probably maybe 3-1, I'd say, Bayern.
Yeah, and then on to the big ones, the big one. But Liverpool v Inter Milan now away at the San Siro. I don't think it changes much. I think we win. I think maybe I want to say 2-0, but I might give them a go. I'll say 2-1 to the Liverpool. I just think Salah's in that. He's got to bounce back, and he hasn't scored in the last 2 games. Although he should have scored against Leicester, he was so unlucky. The form
Yeah.
Jota's in as well. The left wing's a bit of a toss up, I think, between Mane and Diaz. I would be happy with either of them starting. To be fair, the midfield as well. A lot of criticisms come Henderson's way, so I could see Elliott or Naby maybe stealing his place in the lineup. But obviously, you've got to stick with Fabinho and Thiago, one of the best midfield twos, like pivots in the world, in my opinion, anyway. And the defence sort of speaks for itself. Maybe Kanate comes in for Matip, but I think that's about it. I can see a 2-1 win Liverpool, and then we finish it off in the home leg.
Yeah, I mean, look, obviously Inter don't have Barella either after his red card. But I mean, Inter still have a good team. They've got like obviously Edin Dzeko in there. They've got like a good array of centre backs. Still got Danovic in goal, Brozovic. I think it's is it Dumfries on the right as well. They just got Goosen's as well. So I mean, look, they could make a game of it, but I think you're right. I think the form that Inter are in is just that Liverpool are in, sorry, and the attack. I think Salah's got a point to prove. I think him scoring is an inevitability. So the longer he doesn't score, I think the more likely is he scores in the next game. So I think 2 games is already probably 2 games too many for him. So I'm sure he'll probably get a goal. But yeah, I'd probably say 2-0. I don't think Inter will probably give you too many problems, but you never know.
We've seen stranger things happen in the Champions
Yeah.
League. Seen some crazy things. But anyway, we'll be back possibly after these games to review them. We'll definitely be back next week to do a preview of the other Champions League ties
Yep.
that are coming up. And then after that, we will be back the weekend after to review the Premier League, I think. And obviously review the Carabao Cup final, which could make for a very, very interesting episode because I'm a Liverpool fan and you're a Chelsea fan. So thanks for joining, guys. We'll see you next time. Make sure to give us a like and a subscribe and throw a comment down there. And see you next time.